had something very big happen last night.
Did.
So I want to start there.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what happened?
So there is a secret tunnel between my theater, the Richard Rodgers, and my wife's theater, the Imperial. And Lin-Manuel Miranda has been saying for a while that he was going to show us this tunnel. And last night he texted my wife. He's like, "I'm coming over to show you the tunnel." And we're like, okay. Didn't give a time frame. Didn't get, just like gonna show up. So I start my show. I was like, "I'll see you later." Blah blah blah. We finish my shot. I'm backstage during Skylar Sisters under the fan, trying to cool down, and I feel a tap on my shoulder. And I think one of my castmates is messing with me, like trying to tap me on one shoulder, make me look, whatever. And I turn, and Lynn is standing right there with my wife, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, what is going on right now?
This is during a live show.
During the show, literally. And also, my wife played Eliza on tour with me, for a while. So Skylar Sisters playing in the background, and I'm looking at my wife, and I'm like, this is so strange. Lynn is here, and he's like, yeah, so you just have to go down those stairs, go right to the door, and go through the tunnel, and like, you'll be good. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. And he's like, let's take a picture. So we take a picture. All the while I'm like still listening because I don't want to miss my entrance. I'm still doing.
I think Hamilton needs to make the Hamilton
I'm
entrance.
still, in the middle of a show. And so he's like, yeah, take a picture. We take a picture. And he's like, okay, bye. I was like, okay, bye. A whirlwind. The craziest experience I've ever had, like possibly in my life. It was insane.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And you went out without a beat, right? You just.
It energized the rest of my show. I was on cloud nine. Yeah.
I bet it did.
Lynn and my wife just saying, hey, good luck. Have a great show. I was like, okay, bye.
Oh my gosh.
It was wild.
I mean, being there, being Hamilton, having been on tour for how long were you on tour?
4 years, yeah, a long time.
Okay, so you started out on tour, and what did you start out with?
I started off as a standby. I covered Hamilton, Burr, Washington, and Laugh Jeff. I did that for about 9 months, and then I took over full-time for Ham in 2019. Did that till pandemic, did that after pandemic until 2023. So yeah, long time.
And explain what being on tour means. That means you are all over the place.
So we were all over, we were, for the most part, it was like a different city every 3 weeks, so we hit a lot of cities in that time. I did over like 1,000 performances like with the company. Like it was a lot. It was amazing. It was the best thing that's ever happened to me. I got a wife from it, so I can't complain. But it's difficult. It's hard. Touring is like you're away. It's very isolating. You're away from family. You miss a lot of holidays and stuff. I remember my sister got engaged while I was on tour, and I like flew in on Christmas for like 36 hours, saw her get engaged, fly back out straight to a matinee, like did a show, so like but it's also like I was young and like I loved it, and it was my dream show, it was my dream role. It was the best experience.
Was Hamilton always the dream?
It really was, yeah, it really was. I saw In the Heights when I was in college, and it like changed my life, like actually. And I know a lot of people say that, but like it legitimately changed my life. I was sitting there, watched the whole show. My face was hurting because I was smiling so much for the 3 hours. Like it, and from that moment on, I was like, oh, I didn't realize there was musicals that like sounded like this, or like me, or like a sound that I could like connect with, Yeah, so when Hamilton came out, all my friends in San Diego will tell you that I talked about it nonstop. And I was like, I'm gonna be in the show someday. I'm gonna be like, I can't wait. Like, I wanna audition for it. Like, I wanna.
And how old are you then? You're young?
Oh, I was like 23 probably, maybe, something like that. And I thought I was gonna play Laugh Jeff, that was the role like Guns and Ships was like, I mean, come on, what is that, like, and so, yeah, when I booked the tour and it was like Ham, Burr, and Wash, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I mean, great. I think I'm a little young for Washington, but we'll do it. But yeah, it was amazing. It was, my world turned upside down, if you will, but like, it was,
I will, it did.
If you will.
I will, and it did.
It really did, yeah.
You met your wife on tour.
I did,
Can you talk a little bit about how that happened?
Yeah, so she joined like September, October of 2018. She took over as Eliza, and I was still a standby at the time, so we rehearsed a lot together. She was with somebody at the time, so we were great friends, and when I took over in 2019, we would just like, we're very similar artists in terms of like how we approach roles, and so we would sit for hours at night after the show talking about how we can make it better, and how like, oh, this scene means this, and like, we were just very connected in that way. She left tour later 2019, pandemic hit. She broke up with her ex in the pandemic, and during that time, we're all at home, and so I was having a lot of family game nights over Zoom with my family, and I would invite her, and she was getting along great with my family, and I was like, okay, this is a good thing, you know. We would play video games till like 2, 3 a.m. and just talking and laughing, and like I was streaming at that time, and all the people would comment like, "You guys are so funny together," and I was like, "Yeah, we are, aren't we?" You know, and so it became kind of like a thing. At some point, we had a conversation. I was just like, "What are we doing? Are we doing this?" Like a month in, she's like, "Oh, this is like your boyfriend, Edred, now. Like this is a lot more intense." I was like, "Yeah, like I'm not messing around. Like we're gonna," and we got married. So you know,
I love
I was
that.
right,
And
but,
you
yeah.
got engaged on tour?
Yeah, it was my last show on tour. It was my last show in Puerto Rico in 2023. My family was there, her family was there. We had a dinner planned for the following Monday, like the next day, but I was like, I think she thinks we're gonna get engaged on the Monday, but
yeah.
I wanna get engaged on the stage where we met, you know. Audience cleared out, we went on stage. I surprised her. She's like, no. I was like, please don't say no right now. Like, don't say, that's not the word you're supposed to say right now.
But
you
it was
know?
like a surprise no.
Yeah, it was
like
a
she couldn't
surprise
believe
no.
it
Like
now.
she was
Okay.
very overwhelmed. But then she said yes, let the record show.
Yeah,
She
let's
did say
please.
yes. Yeah, let everyone, you know.
So you come to Broadway now.
Yeah.
What has it been like since January, right? You've been
Yeah, since January. It's been a dream. I did 3 weeks for like a vacation last June, July, and I was like, oh man, I missed this. Like it had been over a year, you know?
Yeah.
It had been some time, and I was like, yeah, I want to do this again. Like I just feel so good doing it. And so having them call me back and starting, I was like, this is amazing. And having my wife next door, I was like, this is
incredible.
This is the dream. Like this is actually my dream.
So what happened? Did Lynn find out that you were next door to each other?
Yeah, he found out. He's like, oh, you guys have to, like, I have to show you the tunnel. Like pretty early on, we're like, okay. And it's been like a month, but he finally showed it to us. And yeah, like we've been going home together. We like, I will pop into her dressing room sometimes between shows and she's like, hey, let's watch Love is Blind or something. You know, like let's.
How fun is that?
It's been great.
It's really
been
amazing. What has Lynn meant to you? Because it seems like he has been a real thread throughout all of this.
Yeah, he's Lynn now. Like he, you know, like we kind of like know him personally, but he's like I still kind of get nervous a little bit because he's like my idol. Like he's the reason I'm doing musical theater. Like I was an actor and I wanted to do plays and you know TV and film and stuff, but like in terms of musicals, like it was him. Like he really like his mind is just different and his work has had such an impact on my life. So like and they say don't meet your idols, but like I'm very glad I met him because he's the sweetest, like kindest human ever. He's also like a genius. Like I'm sitting here listening to him talk and I'm just like, oh, you just like you're different. Like you're a different type of person, you know? It means the world to me that I'm able to have like I still like pinch myself to be like, I was in a picture with Lin-Manuel right last night. Like, what the heck? 23-year-old Edred is like freaking out right now. But yeah, it's a dream to be able to call him a friend.